What is up, everybody? It is Thursday. Welcome back to the live stream. It is 5 o'clock here in Lake Ranch, and man, it was a beautifully gorgeous day. Now, generally speaking, my car temperature gauge is pretty spot on. It said it was 87 degrees today. Drop a comment down below if you believe that's to be true, because I haven't watched any news, haven't gone online or heard anything about it. But my goodness, it was hot. It was beautiful today. Drop a comment down below. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Oh, by the way, cheers. If you watched the show before, I'm always starting off with a beverage of choice. Today is, first of all, cheers. Smooth like butter. That is Toki, which means time in Japanese. Can you see that? Suntory whiskey. Very delicious. I don't know a lot about Japanese whiskey, but that's kind of the token one that you were supposed to have in your collection. Interesting enough, so I went to go online before the live stream just to find out some information. 86 proof, by the way. And so I went on the Suntory website, and of course you can see other things that they have for sale. Went on their website, found descriptions. I was like, oh, that one seems like that would be a good one. I like that flavor profile. So I kind of wrote them all down and then went to a local liquor store website to see if they have any of those in stock. They ranged from, this one is like $30. But the ones that I saw online range from about, there was another one for $89.99. There was another one for like $249, and they went as high as $40,000. Yeah, you heard me right. $40,000 for a Japanese whiskey. Out of my budget. Can't imagine selling enough houses that I'm going to warrant buying a $40,000 bottle of whiskey. However, if you want to buy me a closing gift, that would be fantastic. Super excited for today's live stream. Got a great guest on. I'll kind of give the backstory. So interesting enough, I found this out not too long ago, that about 47% of the people who move to Lakewood Ranch, where I am, Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, come from the state of Florida already. So they're already living in the States. But then when I got the breakdown of where the vast majority of other folks are moving from, it was New York and New Jersey. So I thought it'd be great to have an agent from New York come on. We can kind of talk about, one, why there's a mass exodus happening in New York and in New Jersey, and then just talk about, why they're coming here and some of the differences. But yeah, really intriguing. So without further ado, let me invite on my friend and fellow real estate agent, Peter from Westchester, New York. Hello, hello.
Hello, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Clearly not in Florida, because you got that wool hat on.
I got the Roots hat on. Keeps me warm. We have some snow out in our yard. Our numbers 941 and 914 for area
Go
codes
figure.
are very, very different, but our weather is also very, very different.
Yeah, just it was interesting because we had a pretty cold front. I don't know if you saw the news a couple of weeks ago. It snowed in Florida, like 9 inches, northern Florida, not here, but it was cold here. It was like in the 40s here. So because it is still, it's just a little over a year that we moved back from Maui. Like literally, when it dropped cold, I went out and bought myself a winter coat, a nice one, and a couple of nice long sleeve shirts. And then it got warm, and it's been sitting in my closet ever since. And I'm pretty positive like winter might be over in Florida.
Yeah, so my family lives there, and it was cold in Florida, and a whole bunch of people did get snow there, which probably many people have never ever seen before, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And you may need that coat once every 5 years, right? Or maybe never again. You never know. Come to New York, come to Connecticut. You'll need that coat.
I know we had to buy coats when we went to a wedding in Philly, and I was like, well, shoot, we have no warm clothes, so we bought them. This is before moving to Maui, so we both bought winter coats, and it was cold when we went to this wedding in Philly, and then we never needed them, so they sat around for 5 years. And of course, little secret: the older you get, the tougher it is to lose some weight. So I'm really hoping that next year, if and when I need that jacket, that I'm going to fit into it.
Yeah, there you go. I get that part. It's about staying active every day, I guess, on that end.
Sure. I'm pretty good. I mean, my alarm goes off at 4:45 a.m. I built a little kind of home gym in my house, do little weights. do a little hot yoga. I bought little space heaters, which came in very handy. I literally bought them for hot yoga, but
There
found
you
myself
go.
during those 2 weeks when they were cold, like just carrying them around the house.
Yeah, yeah, I
I'll
get it.
just plug it in, then go into the kitchen, then plug it in.
I do that here in my office, in my house. I'm in a little corner room, and two exterior walls with great views. And I look out at the bird feeder, and the heater is going. It's very, very convenient. Um, and you know, I loved your introduction, right? Like 47% of the people who live in Lakewood Ranch are there from Florida already. And
Yeah,
and
interesting,
and
right?
that's an interesting statistic, which tells you something about the community itself. That it's desirable,
Yep.
right? And the people from the state who have already been there, have tried other places, want to be there. And then the other interesting statistic is New York and New Jersey are your big feeders, and while that may not be so unobvious, or it may not be so obvious to people, um, I think it's important to understand, like, what does that look like and why is that happening, right? And
Yeah, we'll dive in and talk about it. And here I sat in a meeting with a bunch of people who are somebody talking about the growth in this area, and I found it really surprising. And here's why: because so before moving to Maui, I lived in this area for 11 years, very involved with all the chambers, had pretty good, I thought, understanding of the area. And of course, I moved away and moved back. But when I sat down and they talked about where people were moving from, I was pretty blown away. And I probably should have a map for this too, because you'll all understand this. I was always under the impression for a decade or so that people from your neck of the woods, right, New York, New Jersey, came down what they call the 95 corridor, right? You came down 95,
right,
Interstate 95, right, Interstate 95, and you'd move down to like Fort Lauderdale or Miami or Palm Beach, right? Everything that's already on the East Coast. And I was under the impression that people on this coast, or on the West Coast of Florida, were coming down the 75 corridor, right? All the way from Canada, Indiana, Ohio, some
correct.
Michigan, Wisconsin, but just kind of come down Georgia, coming straight down. So when I saw those statistics, and I think just one of like the top 10 states people moving from were on that I-75 corridor. I was like, wow, that is just really interesting. So the secret's out on the West Coast, so that people from the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, are actually moving over to this side.
And you know, those statistics were accurate probably until, I'll say, somewhere around COVID, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
and and I think that's kind of where everything changed. I mean, listen, I'm going to be one of those people one day, right? And whether it's going to be Lakewood Ranch or somewhere else, I mean, you know, it's for me, right? You know, as I start to age, I can do my business from anywhere.
Right.
I have reciprocity with Florida, so it looks like Florida to me. And while my family's on the East Coast, the West Coast has always been more intriguing to me.
It's
Um,
beautiful here.
yeah,
Much,
for
much
several
different than the East
several
Coast.
reasons. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for several reasons, and we've been there. I've been to St. Petersburg. I've been to Tampa. I've been to Naples. Um, I got engaged in front of the Mucky Duck on Sanibel Island.
Oh, beautiful.
Right, like, so we spent our honeymoon at the South Island Plantation, which I know was wiped out several times and probably back up again. And like, for me, I think that would be more the natural draw, and there are several reasons for that, but I would love to know a little bit more about Lakewood Ranch. I have people all the time who are saying to me, you know, we're retiring, we're thinking about, like, where should we be, and kind of like, I'm not retiring, but I'm thinking that's the next thought process for me, and as my wife starts to think about retiring, maybe from school teaching
Yeah.
in a few years. So I mean, I don't think there's any pre-notion that somebody from New York, Connecticut, New Jersey is going to the southeast coast of Florida anymore. I mean, I think it used to be that way. That was
Yep.
Delray, as you said, Fort Lauderdale. Those were the spots. Hollywood, right? Like, I remember
Right.
my parents all wound up in Hollywood somehow.
Yeah.
Um, My
My
mom,
grandparents been there from
yeah,
Brooklyn.
and my mom wound up in Boynton Beach. My sister, has lived all over that coast. A- a- And to me, the West Coast seems a little bit more natural.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think this happens when you get older too, but to find out that this area was a sleepy little town like not that long ago, like in the 80s, which I know is a long time ago, it doesn't seem like a long time ago, but like there weren't even like roads in this area. The highway didn't even go down this way like in the 80s. And
Right.
to see it now, so I think the secret is out. This is really a great place. It was interesting. I thought everyone knew about Lakewood Ranch, just because it's been voted the number one planned unit community. Now it's 7 years in a row. But when we were at the last Tom Ferry event, I found real estate agents from Florida who were like, "Where's Lakewood Ranch?" I was like, "You're kidding me." Sarasota. Oh yeah, I know Sarasota.
And maybe those are some agents that really need to know about Lakewood Ranch, because I'll bet some of their clients are moving from southern Lakewood Ranch, if I'm correct, is somewhere more north of Naples, but not quite Tampa.
Yeah, we're about an hour south of Tampa and probably about 2 hours north of Naples.
Right. So, and I mean, I think it's natural people are going to move north, right? Like as congestion and prices increase in the southern part of the state in Florida. I mean, I'm having people ask me about more northern communities,
Oh,
uh,
interesting. Yeah.
and not necessarily, hey, I want to be in Delray, right? Like would I love to be in Delray? Sure, Delray is a little bit crowded and a little bit expensive right now, but honestly, I think like the crowd part, like and the ability to be in a planned community at especially as the boomers. I'm a boomer,
Yep.
right? I think you're a boomer. As we get of age, like we want to stay active. We're active, and yet we want to have an easier life and maybe pay a little bit less taxes. I'm not going to say the cost of living is any different down there than it is here, because right now everything seems a little bit expensive. But
Yeah.
certainly in the warmer weather, life is easier.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'll probably do a video about why so many people are leaving Florida.
Mm,
Probably has a lot to do with what we were just talking about. Like a lot of people moved down here during COVID, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit because I have some articles talking about that. A lot of people moved down here because it was much freer than a lot of other states. But then the reality is that in those past 4 years now, give or take 4 or 5, going into 5 years, it was significantly cheaper. And since then, after all these people have moved here, it's not so cheap anymore. Insurance, homeowners associations, taxes.
right.
Um, a lot of people, without getting political, don't like the politics here, so find themselves like, yes, we moved down here, but now we're moving. Can't remember what you call it, but they're moving not back to where they came from, but like to like South Carolina and North Carolina, like halfway up the coast.
Or Alabama. I've heard a
Yep,
lot of people going to Alabama.
yep,
And
cheaper.
and I get that, right? Like, listen, not political in any way, shape, or form, right? And really, I think what it comes down to is for retirees is quality of life, cost of living,
Yep,
and you certainly get a better quality in a warmer weather.
for sure.
Um, and the cost of living part right now, I think ultimately it'll stabilize, right? Like at some point, something's got to give where prices will come down. I know that storms have killed insurance down there. Insurers have pulled out.
Yep,
I mean, we get hit with some storms here too, and and all of the craziness with the fires in California, and and like that's a real thing, right? Like that's not going away anytime soon, and um, so yes, it was much cheaper there, and now maybe not so much, but I still think overall the quality of life and um, the stretch of dollar, for lack of a better
yeah,
way to describe it,
yep.
it goes further there,
Yeah,
right?
especially from states like New York and New Jersey. And speaking of California, interesting enough, I do a lot of analytics searching on from YouTube, and up until I have to go back and drill down a little deeper, but out of nowhere, should say out of nowhere. My viewership, obviously Florida first and foremost, but California slid in out of nowhere, right? When you go in and say where are people watching your channel from? Like in the last 28 days, that's kind of the bracket on YouTube. Yeah, it was California. I was like, well, isn't that interesting? But
Yeah.
not really interesting, not surprising because, fires and you got to rebuild and taxes and red tape to build. So they start to look at other states that might be a little friendlier to build. And houses, obviously, if you're from this area, you think housing is expensive. But if you come from other states, you're like, wow, that's a deal. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. Like, so my taxes in my New York house were like 21,000 when I moved 8 years ago, a little over 8 years ago. We flipped the numbers. We moved to Connecticut to an acre and a half of land. We were on literally a postage stamp in a planned community, and I flipped the numbers. They became 12,000, right?
Nice.
And that's still pretty expensive. When we look at what our housing cost is compared to down there, or even California, like right now in California is, they lost thousands of homes.
Yeah.
Those people need a place to live. It's gonna put upward pressure on prices. And I have a family member that just recently moved from California to Clearwater. And their reasoning is like, we love the warm weather and we love the weather. It's just not sustainable to be able to live here as a young couple.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of probably why you're seeing some of that migration. It's a likely spot. It's beautiful coastal communities, warmer weather.
Yep.
A little bit more humid than California. Okay.
Yep.
And certainly much cheaper than California, much cheaper than New York, much cheaper than Connecticut, much cheaper than New Jersey.
Yep. And one of the things, I've done a ton of videos about Lakewood Ranch, and one of the things that I absolutely love is that you can buy a condo in the $200,000 range. You can buy a single family home in the $400,000 range, and as high up as $6 million, and everything in between, which is really great. And I understand some people think that's entirely too high, but for a vast majority of people around the country, like $400,000 for a brand new house is pretty good.
Agreed. Right. Like I don't know anywhere near me that I could say I've got new construction for $400,000.
Yeah.
I don't have it. That doesn't exist.
Now those homes might not be for everybody, but I mean, if you told me your budget's $700,000, I can find, I don't know if you know anything about Lakewood Ranch, but there's like 40 plus communities within Lakewood Ranch. But if you told me your budget was $700,000, I can find you 25 neighborhoods that you can move into.
Right. Which is a benefit.
Which benefit, yeah.
Which is a benefit. So how big is Lakewood Ranch? Tell me.
So Lakewood Ranch is about,
we'd want to know that for sure.
About 31,000 acres. And now it covers 2 counties. And there is about 45 neighborhoods within Lakewood Ranch. The first one's going back to 1995. And there are currently, they just came out with a new map, and there are 5 new neighborhoods on the horizon. Shot a video at one of them yesterday, and probably, I don't know the exact number, 10, 12, 15 that are currently under construction that you can buy brand new construction.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the original design, they stopped saying it after we moved back here, but originally the premise was live, work, play.
Right.
Like you literally, the interesting thing about a planned community, I've not seen it anywhere else in the country before, nor am I aware of any other ones that are specifically like this. Like, and I know we have there's a lot of concern about the infrastructure. The infrastructure is not in place for the amount of growth. However, generally speaking, the infrastructure is pretty phenomenal here because it was all built knowing what was coming. So the hospital is here. Now granted, some of the roads are expanding now too, better late than never. But yeah, there's supermarkets here, there's shopping here. Like literally, you don't have to leave Lakewood Ranch. Everything you kind of need is here, and it was really designed so that you could spend your whole life here, right? Like you graduate high school, you want to get out of your parents' basement, you could theoretically go rent your first apartment, right? Get your first job, move into your first starter condo, it's $200,000, right? Get the promotion, move into a $400,000 house, get married, have kids, move into, a 2-story, 3,000 square foot house, win the lottery, move into $1 million house, retire, want to downsize, move. So you really could just move around and be in Lakewood Ranch. It's awesome.
I think that the Florida master plan that was put in place. So I went to high school in Florida. We're going back, folks, 35, 40 years.
I didn't know that.
And I went to high school in Central Florida for my last year and a half high school. And nothing was around there then either. And now it's all built out. I spoke to one of our friends at the Elite Retreat who's from that area. And we were talking about things and he's like, how do you know all this stuff? Like I went to high school there. He's like, well, that place doesn't exist anymore. It's now houses, right? Like I get it. Florida had a very huge master plan, a general state master plan.
Yep.
And they left room and corridors for highways, roadways, wastewater, not wastewater, stormwater, and building the infrastructure and as you watch community to community grow, right? Whether they're growing west, whether they're growing north down there. The one thing I always found curious was there was always enough stores and restaurants and medical facilities and schools and public services that came along with it every step of the way, right? Like people say you go on every corner, you see a Walgreens in Florida, right? Like I think that's because they want people to have an ease of access to things and not have to drive 20 minutes.
That's the key. Now, I know it's interesting because, a lot of people really complain about a lot of that, but that really is the gist of why they do it. Because, we have Publix as our supermarket and there's it seems like 10 of them in Lakewood Ranch. And people are always like, do we need another Publix? But they're all busy because they all, it's kind of like in New York City, right? You could have 20 little corner stores and they'll all do well because they're all servicing just that little pocket.
That little pocket, right? And boy, do I wish we had Publix around here. We've got some new stores opening up and things like that, but we don't have Publix, and we don't. I have to get in my car to go to the market, and I'm driving 15 minutes. Like it's not close to me, right? In any way, shape, or form, right? And okay, that's okay. I chose to live here, right? Like that was my plan, right? To kind of move up a little bit north and a little bit more land in the country-ish kind of thing. But it would be nice not to have to get in the car every time I need something and drive 10 to 15 minutes, right? And to be able to literally 5 minutes around the corner, you're somewhere you could at least get something. It may not be the store you need to be in, but it'll be good enough. Or maybe it is a store that you're in, right? Because there's a Publix everywhere. There's a Walgreens or a CVS. And I think that's what's so different about Florida than this region is I think it was better planned in that direction to make sure that there was enough commerce and residential mix for people to really have a good life and for the stores to survive and for the people to have what they need at their fingertips. And I think people want convenience today, right? Like they want convenience, they want service, they want convenience, and I think that's what we do in our business. Like people say, "Oh, you sell houses." I don't sell houses, right? I have an expertise, and I'm able to convey to somebody. The house just happens to be the product, but I'm service oriented. It's about the people to me. It's not necessarily about the house or the dollar. And I think that your communities down there are better planned for the people.
Yeah, I agree. Now, on the flip side, Lakewood Ranch has actually scored a 0. I did a video on this one on walkability, which is really surprising considering it's a planned community. Obviously, it's a massive area. You shouldn't be able to walk everywhere, but it's just not great for walking. So you have to drive just about everywhere.
Do they do the golf cart thing?
No, which is really surprising too. So you can pretty much drive your golf cart in your community. I do see people driving them outside of the community legally, not allowed, because you're supposed to not drive them on the sidewalks, and not technically, I think, drive. I can't remember if it's 25-mile-an-hour zones or
Right.
maybe it's 35. So mostly you're using it in your community, which is great. However, no, you're not taking it to the Publix because it's just not set for that one. You're
Right.
crossing a main road for the most part to get to that Publix. But that's
Yep.
surprising too, especially in the newer communities.
Yes. Right. You would think ease of access would be something that they would be working on
Yeah,
for sure.
They're not. So hey, let's do this. While I got John here, I want to go through some of the statistics that I pulled up, and then we're going to talk about an article. So, New York and New Jersey are among the most abandoned states. New York ranks third in the country for outbound migration. 59% of movers left the state, with Florida as the top destination. The main reasons for leaving: 25.6% was family ties, 20.8% was retirement, which I thought would be a lot higher. Job opportunities were 15.7%. New Jersey is number one for outbound move, marking its 7th consecutive year in the top spot, which is really surprising.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. Florida and Texas are attracting Gen Xers, many of whom are in their late 40s and 50s. New York City and other big coastal cities are seeing Gen Xers leave due to high cost and remote work opportunities. New York City lost 352,100 residents in 2024. Says 352,000 residents left New York City, but 161,000 moved within the state or to New Jersey. And Florida was the top destination. Wealthier individuals, $100,000 earners or more, are moving into New York City, while those earning less than $100,000 are leaving. Interesting, right?
That's not a surprising statistic. New York City has gotten so expensive.
Expensive.
All of my kids live and rent there.
Yep.
And those are very interesting statistics. Certainly not surprising. It's very, very hard. They spend a lot of money on rent. A lot of these young kids who are taking entry-level positions right out of college are renting 2-bedroom units that they flex the living room into another bedroom by putting up a temporary wall. And 3 of them, 1 bathroom, or more.
It's insane.
Just to be able to live in the city, because they want the ease of work and commuting, and they want to work in the city, and that's where it is for kids, right? That's where their life is and all of that stuff. But I think I read something this week, and it might have just been an article about this one particular couple, but there's a couple living in New York City, and they were making somewhere close to $500,000, and they were living paycheck to paycheck.
That's
right.
Nuts.
And like, let's think about that for a second. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, we have high taxes. I mean, obviously, if you're living in the city, I mean, if I could afford to live in the city, I'd live in the city, not during winter, but I'd live in the city the rest of the time. But yeah, everything's expensive. I know my cousin was a real estate agent in New York City, and just like, I mean, what's the least expensive condo or apartment you can buy in the city? Right? Is it $500,000? Can you get a place for $500,000 in the city?
Yes, you can. So depending, co-op, condo, very few single family residents, some townhouses that get like crazy prices. I think you can buy a decent place for around $500,000, a decent 1-bedroom place, probably a co-op.
Yeah,
not necessarily a condo. I think a condo, and so the city market is not my forte. But I would say probably a condo, you're starting maybe double that.
Yeah, probably $1 million, right?
Yeah, and just because of the way of the ownership and the difference between co-op versus condo. Yeah. The cost of everything in New York City is much, much higher, and in New York and in New Jersey. And the reason that Gen X and the boomers are fleeing is because of the cost of taxes, property taxes, income taxes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And my property taxes now are half of what I would have been paying in New York, and they're still like, they're still over $1,000 a month. You think about that, right? Like,
that's a lot.
and so for me, that's I gotta sell a house, at least one house, just to cover my real estate taxes in a year,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how I think about it, right? Like, and on an average, but I think people want to preserve more money. They want to save some money. They want to be able to travel. They want to be able to have the niceties that they want and do the things that they want. For me, like at some point, grandkids in the horizon, like I'm going to want to spoil the crap out of them, right? Excuse the French live. I'm sorry. You can bleep it. And I see that as what the opportunity is right now, which is driving a lot of the force down south.
Yeah.
I like to think that New York is a great place for an opportunity, and that New Jersey and Connecticut, the tri-state area, is a great place for opportunity. It is thriving. It is, the financial hub and business hub of the world, New York City.
Yes.
But keeping in mind that it's also a very expensive place to be, because it's so desired, right? The very, very wealthy people are buying up properties in the city, having pied-à-terres, and the ability to go out in the city for a night and not have to worry about getting in your car or getting on a train to go home.
Yeah, that's a biggie too.
You just go to your safe haven, and I think that's also driving up some of the pricing.
For sure, and of course, that's specifically just talking about the city. We're talking about all of New York, all of New Jersey. I can't really drill down to find out where the people are moving from New York and New Jersey, but it could be anywhere. It's interesting enough. So this past Sunday, Jessica and I did something really interesting for Super Bowl. We started a Facebook group, but we promoted this on a Facebook group. We wrote out some letters. We ran some ads. We just moved into this neighborhood, and we went to meet the neighbors. So I made a monster batch. You see that monster batch of chili, and we gave out chili for free for the game. And it was great. We had a bunch of people going, and literally we just set up on our driveway, which is such a New York thing to do, right? You just set up on the stoop. But yeah, we brought out a table and cooked up a homemade batch of chili, and we set up for 2 hours before the game. We gave out like little quart pints,
nice,
free chili. It was great. But interesting enough, so like a handful of neighbors, or handful of people from the neighborhood came by, and like 99% were all from New York and New Jersey.
Chili, you say chili to a New Yorker, it's like pizza.
It's interesting. Right? I'll tell you what, one of the neighbors literally drove home in from the neighborhood and drove back, and I can't remember the name. I apologize, especially if you're watching, but a famous Knish place, and she had some in the freezer.
Gabillas.
Yeah, and she maybe that's what it was. Yeah, and came and gave us one, which I think we're gonna have tonight.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, from New York, and again, it always shocks me because I'm thinking keep thinking you're going to be from the Midwest, but the stats are showing me otherwise.
Right, and that's good for me to know as well, right? Like, because as I said, I do have a lot of people now not just saying I want to be, Palm Beach County, right? Like, and sure, right? Like, I mean, I guess the demographics is if your family's on the East Coast, you're going to want to be on the East Coast, right? Like,
right.
I mean, like I get that. But I think that mold is breaking a little. I really do.
I agree with you. And our beaches are nicer here.
Clearwater Beach is probably one of the nicest beaches I've ever been to. Period. End of story.
Right? Like, a little secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. But Jessica and I are taking off and going to the beach tomorrow.
Oh, I'm on my way. I'll be on if I could be on a plane tonight, I would. Dip your sand in your toes in the sand in the waters for me. So we spend a lot of time on the beaches in the summer. We go to Martha's Vineyard. We go to Cape Cod. We go to Narragansett. Sometimes Block Island, Milford, Connecticut, where family has a beach house. So can't
see your toes. Can't see your toes in the water, man. I'm not going in.
Not in Long Island. I don't go in the Long Island Sound. Sorry, folks. Like, I grew up on the Long Island Sound. I don't go in the Long Island Sound. It may be cleaner now, but I'm not going in the Long Island Sound. Although I did see somebody post something very funny today. They're going to change the name to the Connecticut Sound. Just a joke.
I'm
Anyway, uh,
staying
anyway,
out
so
of it.
that was somebody from Connecticut.
Yeah,
It's just a stupid political joke,
yeah,
and not being political at the same
yeah.
time. But like, I would love to know more about Lakewood Ranch. I'm going to come down and visit you guys.
You should, yeah,
Uh,
you should. First of all, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, because I've got, got a couple of hundred videos about that. Actually, we have two channels: 941 Premier Home Tours, which is just home tours, and then the one everyone's watching now, which is 941 Lifestyle Group. A lot of educational stuff about Lakewood Ranch. There's some pros, there's some cons. The traffic does suck here. Um, they're working on the infrastructure, but yeah, it's yeah,
it
it's
can't
a
be
tough
worse.
one.
It can't be worse than the Merritt Parkway on a Friday
No,
afternoon going north.
no, but it's all relative. It does kind of stink. I mean, it is very seasonal, so the population doubles.
And it's
Christmas to Easter when a lot of snowbirds come down.
Mhm.
But I think the one reason that people love this area, at least for me, is that it really is convenient. So I know you were talking about Central Florida. You can be in Disney in like less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
I can be in Tampa in an hour. I can be down to Sanibel, which you were talking about earlier, probably in like less than 2 hours. I can
Mhm.
be on the East Coast, depending on where. I can be in the East. I can be in Miami in 3 hours.
Right. What is this is an interesting question. And you may not know the answer to it, which is fine. What are the percentages of snowbirds versus full-time residents at Lakewood Ranch?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I know I haven't seen the latest statistics, but I want to say there's about, this is approximate, and if you know the answer and you're watching, drop a comment down below. I think there's about 500,000 residents in this two-county area, Sarasota, Manatee County, and I want to say that about doubles in season, give or take.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and you can understand why people come down. Jessica and I, like I said, we're taking off to go to the beach, but we were just like looking to do like a little staycation. But the challenge is everyone from the north wants to come down during the winter, right? When it's not frigid. So everywhere like is ridiculously expensive. Like we even looked, we were like, let's just go to like a KOA, like the campground. And like, I don't want to do the tent camping. I was willing to do it. I guess my wife was like, let's just do tent camping. But I did look into the cabins.
Right.
Like, and the cabins were like $275 a night.
That's crazy.
For a cabin.
For a cabin.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the problem with winter and warm weather climates and whatnot. And, but I get it.
It was too much. Hey, real quick, I wanted to throw up the article. I found a ton of articles. I threw them up on the screen. But this one I thought was an interesting article to share. So New York and New Jersey, once again, top the list as the most abandoned states in 2024. Now, of course, this is the New York Post, very sensationalized. And that headline, I mean, gosh, man, that hits home, right? You're an abandoned state.
An abandoned state.
Right?
That's crazy.
So New York residents are bolting, right? It's so dramatic. Bolting from the Empire State in droves, with the latest data revealing it's now the third most abandoned state in the country. The annual United Van Lines National Mover Study, who should know better than anybody, right? 59% of New Yorkers headed for greener or sunnier pastures in 2024, continuing a 5-year trend. Last year in 2023, it was ranked 4th highest for residents fleeing the state, and it continues the trend that became more prominent, like we were talking about during COVID, when New Yorkers made a mass exodus to Florida, in particular, in search for fewer restrictions and greater opportunities, putting their kids in school. That had a massive impact. Were you affected by not affected by COVID, but affected specifically from people leaving with wanting to get their kids in school?
I had several clients sell their houses and move away. Specifically, one to be closer to family, two because their jobs became remote permanently, three because of the restrictions of New York State. The governor really put a lot of restrictions, some of which are still even on us as realtors out there. And you yet you read this article and you would think that so many people are leaving that we'd have a ton of inventory. and we don't. That
And you
that's
don't know.
that's the scary thing, right? Like we have movement. Clearly, we have movement, right? Like, okay, it's 50, it's 59% of New Yorkers moved for who moved. That's of who moved. I mean, I think it would be maybe better if we understood what that total number is
Yeah, for sure.
in a finite quantity. But with putting that to the side, like if we take that statistic and we still have a lack of inventory, it just shows you that one, we have a lot of young families that are still wanting to be near here.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
I think that we did see some of the youth of the area move to greener pastures because they had the remote jobs. As that starts to change, and if it changes or when it changes, and it seems to be changing, more people are looking to get back into the office. More companies want their people back in the
Yeah,
office.
I was gonna ask you about that. Are you starting to see, or even just what your thought is, do you think there's gonna be a mass exodus back to work? Because I've seen a lot of companies now who are like, you got to come back to work.
I think that you're going to see a lot of companies have a lot of resignations. It's my personal opinion. I think
Yeah,
people who have been working remote want to work remote. I think there's plenty of opportunities in companies for remote work of one sense or another. I think the demand to come back to the office. I think people who want to be in the office should be in the office. If somebody doesn't want to be in the office, maybe they're not the right fit as an employee. If you need them to be in the office, but there is that group of people now who are like, I'm never going back to the office again,
yeah, for sure.
right?
I went on a listing appointment today, and one of the things the couple said, or at least the guy said, is that he wanted a real estate agent who went into an office every day, which I thought
I
was interesting. I was like,
I
tell me why that's important to you.
what one of the agents I just brought into Real was working with a client, is working with a client, and he's like, I want to meet you in an office. Where's your office? And we have some offices around, and like she's new, so she didn't really know how to answer the question, and I thought that was an interesting thing, and now you're bringing it up. So my thoughts on it is sure, it's nice to have an office, right? Like it's a big shiny piece thing that people can say, boom, there's your office, right? But we have to take time to get there. Not
Yep,
only me, you to meet me, and that's time away from us of possibly being in an extra house or two,
sure.
and or working with a contractor to figure out what we need to do to the house that you may want to purchase. And now we have our office right here, Adam, right? Like we have we're in our office right now.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
you're
I understand
really
things are
interested
going
in
kind of
me in your
weird.
office, right?
Yeah,
And for me, I think there are those that will still want the brick and mortar,
yeah,
and I understand that, and you know I get that. In our business, I don't necessarily think it's a necessity. It's nice to have a spot to be able to go if you need the space and the structure of that. Um, but I would much rather be able to spend my time right now at 5:43 in the afternoon with you than worrying about driving home from my office 35
yeah,
minutes away from my
right.
house.
Sitting in traffic. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it. Like when we were on Maui, um, Maui obviously had I'm not sure there was a state that had stricter restrictions than the state of Hawaii. But we scored a great deal on office space because, as you know, that's a whole other video topic. Office space, is fleeting. So we got a great deal on a huge office. There's
Right.
just the two of us, just me and Jessica. But it was great because we had a space. I had a space that I could record videos.
Yeah.
And it was relatively inexpensive, and we can afford it. And it was, when you work from home, you have to have that discipline to not go do laundry at 11 o'clock in the morning and, not go raid the kitchen at 1:45 in the afternoon because
Yeah,
it's
I
easy to
get
do
it.
in your house.
I get it. Or the dogs come and bother you to walk them,
Yeah,
and during COVID, my dogs were with me by my shoulder on many presentations over Zoom, and so it is a discipline.
yeah,
But I will tell you, I have found that not going into an office for me has made me a little bit better of an agent and a little
Yeah.
bit better of a broker, right? Because I'm able to concentrate on the things that are really, really important to the client and to the people. And it, if I'm able to concentrate a little bit more on them and give them just a little bit extra, the experience becomes better, and my business grows that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
that's how I look at it, right? And but it's interesting that you brought that up because Ashley brought that up today to me today too. And
Yeah. I mean, I think Jessica and I will have an office again one day. Not on a priority. Like we actually moved into a house that has a room that we can have an office, and it didn't take away from something else. Like it wasn't the
right,
extra guest bedroom. Like it
right,
was an office, and
yep.
we kind of like it.
And I'm working with some people who I'm aligned with, and you know, who are very, very close to me, and we're talking about opening up. And I'm not talking about opening up an office. I'm talking about opening up a collaboration center,
Like a workspace. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
workspace,
I like that. Yeah.
an open area with you know, there'll be maybe an espresso machine, you know, maybe a conference room, some stand up desks so they can put their computer on, make phone calls. Better to stand up when
Yeah.
you're
Love
making,
that. Yep.
and just a place to come and collaborate and you know, be away if you need that quote unquote office, you could bring somebody into the collaboration center.
I love that idea. Is that something you would buy or just something you would just rent?
Well, yes. Either or, I don't know yet. It's a talking process right now, and I don't want to just do something so haphazardly. It's not done correctly. Um, and my idea is it wouldn't only be agents from Real. It would be
Oh yeah, of course. Yep.
anybody can come work there and bounce ideas, right? Like I'm happy to share, right? That we're in an ecosystem where we're given so much, we're supposed to give back. That's what we do, right?
I love that.
And so when somebody says to me, "Are you opening up an office?" It'll be called a collaboration center. It'll be at some point, and it'll be centrally located, so agents from Westchester County and Fairfield County and Greenwich, and, you know, Stanford, Norwalk could all come together, and you know, you could even host your own event there, right? Like it'll have a production studio for video, very similar to probably what you have there.
Yeah, love it.
And it's definitely in the planning works. And probably I'll say it's a year away.
Okay, nice. I love that idea. I like that almost better than having like your own individual office and just a place where agents can go, because a lot of agents work from home. A lot, the vast majority.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they wouldn't mind like having a space, especially I thought about that too, about having like a space that has microphones and cameras. And I know you can't see, but I have, you know, I got the key light right here and I got the side light right here. And we have,
I see some cool lighting there.
Yeah, I got a ton of them, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it'd be great to have that so other agents can use it, because most don't have it, most won't have it, most would not invest or buy in it. And yeah, maybe we can do some coaching and teach agents how to do YouTube and blah 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 blah.
You know, I think the thing with COVID, which took us all out of our offices, was the fact that, you know, most offices in real estate, everybody tries to hide what they're doing or not share what they're doing or whatever. Right. Like you're worried about you stabbing them in the back. That's not the culture we come from.
Yeah, for sure.
But certainly we're both at the same company now. It's not the culture our company is about. But we need to break that mold. I think it's important for people to have camaraderie. It's important for people to be able to bounce ideas off each other. It's important for people, if they're stuck on something, to say, "Hey, have you ever had this? Can we mastermind about this? How can I get around this?" In 35 years in, including me, like I call people all the time, right? Like, and say, "How would you handle this?" Right? Like, just how would you handle it? Right? Like, and with zero confrontation type, I'm not a confrontational kind of guy. So like, I'm not going to get into it with somebody. And sometimes I let people, you know, like run over me a little bit because of that. But it would be nice to have other people around. I make it a point of at least a couple times a week meeting with a few agents for coffee,
Oh, nice.
to do something on a Zoom, just to collaborate and to bounce ideas. And hey, how are you doing? What's working? What's not working? What was your big success for the week? Things like that. Um, I I want to see collaboration amongst other agents that are not necessarily with the same company. We all play the same field.
Yeah,
Right?
just
Like,
coming from contribution goes a lot further than trying to prevent you from stealing my ideas or that mindset. Yeah,
listen, we're all in this game together. We don't exist without each other,
right.
right?
That's why they
Sure,
call it. That's why they call it a co-broke agent.
right. And is no more co-broking. Anyway, August 17th, right? Like, anyway, but like I think that if we can get people to understand that better, like the most difficult deals I've done in my career are when other agents have egos that are so big that it gets in the way of the deal.
Yep.
Right? Like they're more important than the deal. I'm like, whoa. I have an ego. Step back. We have a house and we're trying to marry two people to it.
Yeah.
One away from it and one to it. Right? Like let's just keep focus on what we're here to do. And we want people to do that with a smile on their face. And sure, there are some stuff that goes on. It's not a perfect process. People get mad. There are some things to get mad about. But it's how you handle it. Do you handle it with grace? Can you do it with dignity? Can you solve the problem so everybody comes out okay, right?
Yep.
Like,
So it's a win-win-win.
it's a win-win-win, right? Like, and I tell people, like, in a negotiation, right? What's the best negotiation? When my client wins, when your client wins? No. When there's a meeting in the middle and everybody's a little unhappy.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
right.
best negotiation, right? Like, and everybody's still smiling at the closing table, shaking their hands and saying, "We're so happy for you, and we're so grateful that you're buying our house or selling us your house," right? Like that's what puts a smile on my face at the
That's
end of
right.
the day.
I know people think that real estate agents are easy and they do no work and they get paid a lot of money, but
Oh yeah.
man,
Oh
that
yeah.
that is
If
not
they
the case.
only knew, if they
Yeah,
only knew, if they only
that-
knew how much
yeah.
work we do for free that we don't get paid for.
Right.
If
Yeah.
right, if they only knew how many times you could get stabbed in the back by somebody for no reason at all, right? Like and like so that's the nature of competition, right? Like everybody wants to do more business and wants to take my business, take your business, whatever it is. But there's enough business for everybody.
Of course. Yeah.
And and my attitude is if agents collaborate a little bit more, it makes everybody a little bit better. If agents are a little bit more transparent, it makes everybody a little bit better, which is what I think that whole August 17th lawsuit changes
Yeah.
and our
For sure.
changes were about. And there's no reason in any part of our world and our business for it to be confrontational, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's upsetting to sell a house for the reason you might be selling it, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
there are bad reasons, but financial, death, divorce, whatever,
Yeah. Divorce.
um,
Yeah.
right? Like but having the empathy for that and just everybody working towards one common goal. A little bit of kindness goes a long way, especially right now.
That is true. And with that, I want to steer us a little bit because one of the things I committed to in 2025, by the way, I renamed this live stream to do Not Another Real Estate Show because I wanted to be less real estatey and more like real estate agents chatting. We've done a pretty good job, but we started to go down the real estate rabbit hole. And for my audience, they already know I'm a real estate agent, so I don't really need to talk so
Yeah.
much about real estate on this one. So what we've decided to do was kind of throw some fun little questions out there. So a couple little questions from the book of Would You Rather. Are you ready?
Yes.
Would you rather time travel to the past or to the future?
To the past.
To the past. Would you rather give up music forever or never watch a movie again?
Never watch a movie again.
Nice. Would you rather be able to relive one perfect day from your past or fast forward through any bad day instantly?
Fast forward through any one bad day instantly.
I love it. Would you rather give up your phone for a month or give up coffee or your favorite drink for a year?
I'll give up my phone for a month.
All right. There you
And I
go.
know that that's probably controversial out there. Sorry, folks.
It
Like,
is. No,
like
that's okay.
I would take this thing and if I could not, I gave it to my assistant. I'm gonna comment on that. I went to
Yeah.
Israel once for 2 weeks. I gave it to my assistant because our phones don't work in Israel.
Oh, nice.
When I got back from Israel, she threw my phone at me and she quit.
Get out.
True story.
Yeah. Doesn't want to answer your phone. I feel you.
It's the bane of existence, right? Like I would give up my phone over the drink for sure.
It's existing. Hey, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
It is, okay. If you could wipe one band off the face of the earth, who would it be?
AC/DC.
AC/DC. Is it acceptable to put pineapple on pizza?
I'm a New Englander. Let's go with clams.
All right. I just said, is it acceptable to put pineapple on pizza?
No. Have I eaten pineapple on pizza? Yes.
It's pretty good, right? Had a whole conversation the other day about this one. I
with
love
pineapple with a little bit of sour cream on it as well. Just
I love pineapple on pizza. It should not be called a Hawaiian pizza.
No, it's not a Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah. What's the worst song ever written?
Ooh. Worst song ever written. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz?
I like that one.
My friends all drive Porsches.
That's a great song.
It's a good song. But it's 3 lines, right? Like, so it's I don't know. It's not the worst song ever written. I can't go by that one. I'm a music junkie, so any music to me, like I go to Nashville, it's like right.
That is awesome. Hey, I want to share one more fun little video because I always like to wrap up showing something that maybe just to bring a smile to everybody's face in such a stressful world. So let's see this. An apple juggler takes 198 bites in 1 minute to get into the Guinness World Book of Records. You got 60 seconds?
Yeah, let's go.
Can you hear that?
Can't hear it. You can see it. That's great. That's so funny. Slow motion.
Hundred 198 apples.
That's great. That's great.
That's how I like to end the show, with some really dumb stuff that brings a smile to people's faces. Hey, how do people get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me, the real Peter Rader on Instagram, or my cell phone number, 914-523-9732, or peter@theraiderteam.com.
Nice. I really appreciate your time, fellow New Yorker, born in Brooklyn. Glad we're able to kind of like just have that conversation, talk about why people moving from your neck of the woods down to my neck of the woods. If you know anybody moving from your neck of the woods down to Lakewood Ranch,
maybe me.
Vice versa.
Maybe me.
Yeah, definitely keep us in mind. Anything else you want to share with the audience?
This was great. I'm so glad to do this with you. I'm so happy to do this with you. I'm so honored that you asked me to do this with you.
Nice.
And to my folks that are watching this, Like if you're looking to be in Lakewood Ranch, this is your guy. Like there's no question about it. He's got it down. He'll give you the world over there.
Check out those channels. Hey, did you book your tickets to One Reel in Orlando?
Here's the sad part about this. My son is getting married in Yosemite on November 1st.
Ah,
And normally Rise is in October.
yep.
And while they did it in Orlando this year and they're doing it in November, and there's not a chance I'm going to be able to make it there because we're going to still be out in Yosemite on vacation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's a good reason to visit.
I do have a ticket though.
It'd be worth $1 million.
It could be worth $1 million. We'll raffle it off to somebody, right? Like I'll figure who wants to get sponsored to Reel. We'll raffle my ticket off to my next 10 sponsees will have a chance at the ticket. I don't know.
Nice.
Just a joke. I don't know, but I'm a little upset about that, and there's no way around it for me without causing a lot of issues family wise, and so there's only one way to do the right thing, and the right thing is family, and you have only one marriage.
That's right.
For your children, and you're there for that. And Rise will be again next year, and they're going to hologram me in, and people are going to go FaceTime with me when they're in different situations. And I invite you to do that as well. It'll make me feel a little bit more a part of it, and less FOMO.
I absolutely love it. Hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining me, and hey, forget about it.
Go on. See you later.
All right. See ya.
Ciao.